You gotta have garbage. You basically are treated like another residence. But that's not written in here anywhere. We've never had anybody build a second house yet. So I'm trying to get ahead of it rather than me just making it up when they show up on our doorstep. So does anybody kind of have any comments? Again, it's not to trap the guy doing the garage apartment, or that's naturally going to be part of the house, you know what I mean?
Right.
We're getting people that are literally building guest houses. So
So is that going to be decided as a guest house by the fact it's disassociated from the main house and garage and it's over a certain square feet?
yeah, that's kind of what we're trying to have. Yeah, what would be kind of the criteria? I mean, I picked 1,000 square feet because it wouldn't capture anybody in the town. Nobody's going to build 1,000 square feet garage apartment. You know, garages here are 22 by 25. They're 500 square feet. You know, so it wouldn't capture anybody. I don't even know, Eric, the garage apartment you have is the air conditioned space was, what is it, like 500?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even close. 600 square feet total, right? So, you know.
Is this would this apply to like electric too?
I think, my guess would be Coastal would probably put a meter on it. Yeah, they probably meter
You
it
can do
separately.
that. I actually put a different meter on my shop down there because I wanted that separate. So you can do that. You can split it.
Yeah, that'd be my guess. They'd probably do that. But I'm just kind of looking for, you know, part of what we try and do is anticipate a little bit ahead so we're not making it up on the fly. And it seems like an equity issue, you know, I mean, we don't, if you can build a guest house, then, you know, look, that's, how do you have the guy across the street here with 1,300 square feet
Yeah.
paying a water and sewer bill, and somebody's got a 3,000 square foot house and they're paying nothing? You know, that doesn't seem to make any sense. And I don't know geometry-wise if they could even tie them together. You know, with the two of them, that they want to have taps anyway, so. And so what I would do is, I would ask, you know, take a look at this, see if there's anything you think in there which is something you might want to change, because this is just our basic policies that govern, kind of, you know, the rules. The fees aren't in here, the fees Clint stripped out and put in the fee order.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, with the fee ordinance coming into play then, or would we just stick with the same set of fees,
Yeah, it's just like, well, water tap is what it is, a sewer tap.
even for the secondary structure?
Yeah, it is what it is, because it's basically just like another house. Yeah. So the goal in, you know, kind of researching it was I was trying to figure out where it goes. Because you know, you can put it in the fee ordinance and say, if you have a second house above this, you got it. But it seems like it should go here, and that way we're not playing with the fee ordinance. If we were, this would just say, anything above X, whatever the criteria is, must have a sewer and a water tap and its own water meter.
So really, it's just a square footage piece.
Yeah, that'd be my goal, just anything above a certain square footage. Again, you know, just not to capture anybody that is going to build a legitimate, you know, I don't want you to put in a bathroom next to your pool and have, you know, somebody say, oh, you got to run a sewer tap for that. You know, no, that's crazy. You know, that's going to tie into the house.
And this would exclude any structures like detached garages, right? Like, what's a 1,000? I mean, I don't know, 1,000 square foot detached garage. Literally, like,
Yeah.
If I could.
You know, I mean, you know,
We actually have one larger than that.
I think it probably defaults back to the air conditioned space, right?
right, well, yeah, it would be the existing
Yeah,
air
it's-
conditioning
it's-
space.
it's-
Right.
So what
yeah.
stops them from calling it garage, boathouse versus their guest house?
The air, that's why it's just an AC square footage. So if you air condition 1,500 square feet, we had somebody do that. Somebody actually air conditioned. They put in chandeliers, they put in all HVAC, everything above their garage.
storage.
And then they came back and said, no, that's storage. We said, oh, I see.
Store people
Storage,
there.
yes. And so, but it was AC, so they had to pay the building permit fee for that. So that's kind of how you break it out, is the AC square footage.
I think it's kind of where the conversation's going. We just need to be careful, right, on how we define it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in agreement, if it's truly a secondary structure that's the size of a house, then I think fair is fair.
Fair's fair, right, exactly. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll come up with then, for next month, I'll come up with an actual decision criteria that you can see in writing, and then we can go from there, and edit that or
Yeah. And I think this is probably the best ordinance, but if you put it in the ordinance, it just gets a little complicated, I think. This-
I really don't want to ask for
Especially if
this.
you're gonna keep the same fees, and the
Yeah,
accessibility.
this is more along just the utility policy and how it's, what defines it, right? It's got sections in there already, so.
Okay. All right, I'll bring it back next month. All right, thank you. All right, next up, we have concrete roads, and Brittany is here from, Brittany Shake is here from Kinley Horn. He was kind of our monthly update and maps.
Yes,
We always get
monthly
maps every
updates.
time you come.
So I have a couple big maps for you, and that was, you had it up on the screen a little earlier,
Okay.
right? So, and then I have individual maps for each of you. I'll pass out. And this is updated. I don't know if you guys saw this one last month. This has an updated schedule, and it also shows Green Meadow Drive added in.
Ah,
Okay, you're welcome. Green Meadow.
oh.
And then I also have 2 hard copies of the geotech report. Also sent the PDF copy to the mayor, so you guys can probably get an electronic copy from him if you would like. And then I'm going to grab that little stand. I'm going to give you a little update. So Mayor, Council, thank you for having me here today. I think the last time I was here was in February with Todd and Joe, and Todd and Joe have been holding down the fort for the next couple of months. So my update for you today is we've completed the geotech report. That was what was phase 1. We needed to find out what the soil was and get a pavement section recommendation. So inside the geotech report, it came back. They gave 2 different pavement section recommendations. One of them is they're both 6 inches of concrete. Well, I'm sorry, they're both over 6 inches of base. The difference is one is a 7-inch layer of concrete and the other one is 6 inches. The only difference in that is going to be based on the vehicle traffic that you see and how the lifetime of the road. So obviously the thicker pavement is going to give you a longer lifespan of the road. So it's either a 20-year service life period based on the number we just ran. We didn't do a detailed traffic study on this, keep costs low, so we used kind of the national averages where the geotech engineer did. So based on the typical vehicle traffic loading that we would expect for a residential area like this, that's the ESAL, that's what the ESAL number is. They give you different service life. So if you have less truck repetitions, you could expect to have a longer service life of your road.
So let me ask you a question, because
Sure.
and I don't know whether you know, I don't know the answer. If you have concrete and just minimum traffic, does it just naturally degrade environmentally, so you have a certain lifespan, even if no cars went on it, or?
Exactly. It all has to do with the soil underneath. And since we have very expansive clay in Texas, concrete is a rigid pavement. So based on the rain, the shrink and swell of the soil, that's a loading in itself.
Okay.
So as it heaves and swells and shrinks, that causes the concrete then to move. So what we find so sidewalks, concrete sidewalks, typically 4 inches, typically no subgrade underneath them. Trails, we typically do put some subgrade. So what you'll see is they will tend to fail a lot faster because they don't have that additional layer. So what the subgrade does, it stabilizes the soil, not only directly underneath the pavement, but most geotech reports, this one does, they recommend a foot outside the pavement as well. And so that's rock, it's not going to shrink and swell. The soil around it will, but it's just one more level of protection. And when you have a certain size aggregate, so this is 57 stone base, that rock on rock provides some strength so that the whole system moves as one versus the, you know, dishomogeneous way that soil shrinks and swells.
So we're gonna have the liner too. Are we gonna have, does it have the liner in it?
So the first phase had a liner.
Yes, we did.
I asked, the geotech that we retained did not have a liner, and so I emailed him about it, and I'll
Okay.
read you his response, because, I mean, I'm not a geotechnical engineer, so it's not my forte. So, let me find that here, I'll put it in my report. Okay, so he said, that's not a recommendation we typically provide. Flex space meeting the specification is a very well-graded material and includes fines in the mix, so sands versus stones. It's not an open graded stone or sand with voids, so it's well graded. There's a bunch of different sizes. Thus, the likelihood of actual detrimental infiltration between the two materials is rather remote. So, to me, that means if it was the same size stone in the subgrade, that would create voids, right? Because we had a bunch of beach balls, there's room for water to come in and seep in. So I would expect that was why the previous geotechnical report would have recommended a liner versus we're gonna have a well-graded subgrade. So you'll have big stones mixed with a little bit smaller, mixed with a little bit smaller. And what that does is it creates a barrier while still keeping strength in your soil.
Is there a downside to using a liner?
Cost.
Okay, so it's not an installation problem, it's not a,
No.
any road crew can handle it, right? It's, you know,
Exactly.
wheelhouse.
Yeah, so infiltration is the key. We don't want water anywhere near our roads. We just don't. So I'm just going to continue on and finish. Thus, the likelihood of actual detrimental infiltration between the two materials is rather remote. He says he doesn't take exception if we want to add it. But in his professional opinion, there's little gain in pavement performance versus the cost. A filter fabric provides no additional structural rigidity to the pavement section. So it's really up to you. We don't take any exception in adding it and showing it either. So that's a decision that you could absolutely make.
How much more money is that?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but what we can do is we can take a look at what the phase one costs were, and take a look at our roads and provide that to you guys.
Remember money,
I-
did
you
they
know,
expect that out separately?
I don't remember if it was there, I think it was there separately, but I don't remember. It's not, it's obviously the concrete, just the
That's going to
800
be,
pound
the
gorilla.
concrete is going to be your major cost. A fabric like that is going to be minimal. It's a drop in the bucket when you consider the rest of the project.
And your average traffic study is not going to be anywhere close to what we run on these roads, right? I mean,
I'm not
we
gonna
get
tell you
one-
for sure,
one to
but
two
I-
big trucks a week,
Right.
and then it's just the residential traffic. You might have a mover or something down there, but I mean, it's next to nothing.
Exactly. So until we did an actual study, I wouldn't tell you for sure, but, you know, from my observations, I think that you guys are well underneath what the national average would be for a residential area.
So it doesn't seem like we need that extra inch unless you,
I don't see the, well, we'll see
We
what we get
gotta
on
look exactly.
the bidding.
And that's something that we can do. We can show it as an alternate with the extra inch, and then that's a decision that we can make when the bids come in on what we're going to do.
Do you guys do any soil stabilizer before you put gravel, like lime or something like that?
Yes, so the 6 inches beneath that is pulled out. It's mixed with lime. The report recommends 8% for this soil based on their testing. So they mix that, put that back in. So 6 inches, then it's the 6 inches of flex space, and then it's the 6 or 7 inches of concrete on top of that. And that's, again, it's just an additional level of protection.
Well, we're hauling away the existing subgrade and everything else. We're not
Correct.
doing like some people just grind up what's there,
Right.
lime stabilize
Well,
it.
we will do that for the bottom 6. So we will haul off the first 12 inches. The 12 inches,
Right.
yes, that will be hauled
That's what I'm
off.
saying, so,
Bottom 6s will, that'll be
so the
mixed.
6 below that, we're gonna do what other people do to the,
Correct.
we're gonna stabilize. Okay.
Well below.
Well,
Correct.
right. So, we are hauling off a foot.
Correct.
Okay, that's what they're doing.
Yes, hauling it off. Get out of here. So that's all I have on the geotech report. If you guys have any questions on that, happy to answer them, and then I'm gonna shift into next steps. Okay, so next steps, we took a look at, so survey is your next step. If you'll take a look at your schedule on the bottom of that exhibit that I sent you, it's a little small, I apologize for that. So geotech, we're done with that. Survey, we are estimating about 3 months for survey. So that is scheduling. They're about 4 to 6 weeks out right now. This is as the rain, hopefully we're getting out of the rainy season. So construction and surveying is ramping up. They're about 4 to 6 weeks out on scheduling that. And we believe it's going to take them anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to actually come out here and get the field work done. It'll take them, probably 2 weeks or so to put it all back into the computer and then send it to us to start our design. So this is our next critical path item. And what we've done is in our original IPO that we sent, we had an overall cost, and then what we ended up doing is breaking it out based on phases if we want to do piecemeal. So geotech is complete. And what I did is I sent a revised IPO to the mayor, and it has survey only in it. Now that price, if you see the $74,000, if you looked at the original IPO, it was $70,000. So the reason for the increase of the cost is adding in Green Meadow Drive. So additional field work, additional processing time. Again, we think it's going to take about 3 months, and we might be able, we have a really good relationship with the surveyor that we use, so we have a way of moving our projects up the list. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions about that, but that's the next step. And of course, we would let you know when they're expected to be out in the field, so you can let all of the residents know. They'll probably send out only one crew at a time. They'll be wearing vests, and so your residents will probably want to know what they're doing. Typically, we have them survey the right-of-way plus 25 or 30 feet outside of that right-of-way. That allows us to pick up any utilities that might be out there and also get a good feel of what the topography is, because we will be doing some grading work, because we are going to take a look at the drainage as part of this project. And so it's important for us to know what's happening outside the right-of-way. We may be grading all the way up to the right-of-way lines.
Brittany, when they do this survey work on this round, are they just going to be recording it, or are they actually going to be staking?
So they will set corners, they'll set irons, but they will not be, there won't be anything permanent there. What they'll do is they have a total station that you'll see out, and you'll see a guy with a pole, and he'll go put the pole right on top of the fire hydrant, and they'll shoot that. But there won't be anything permanent in the ground other than the irons in the corners. And there should already be some out here that they will find, and if they can use those, they won't set any additional corners.
So, like when they did it over here,
Mhm.
before the construction started, they went back to every driveway and they marked,
Okay. I
on the
understand.
construction guys to
Okay.
know where they're, so
Okay,
this is
two-
not that,
Two
right?
different things,
Two-
right?
right.
So this is the topographic survey. So that's telling us what's out here, what are the actual property lines, they do all the deed research, they tag all the culverts, fire hydrants, etc. What you're talking about is construction staking. So when we do the plans, we send our line work typically to the contractor. And I have to look back and see it. The contractors sometimes will hire their own surveying company, and sometimes we'll send our guys back out. What they do is they will actually, what's called staking the route. So they will come and they'll stake where the road is going to go based on the line work that we give them post-design.
So at some point, my thought was, we're gonna get, the survey work will be done.
Correct.
You guys will have the design, and then we would walk the design.
We can absolutely do that. And
But
I
that's not gonna
actually-
be staked, right? So are you gonna, how will we know, like we had issues over here where we surveyed center line, right, Clint? I think that's what we did.
Yeah.
We surveyed center line to save money. We didn't survey the edges, we did the center line.
Right.
And then they just went 12 feet on each side, and they literally pulled tape and staked it. That's where they stuck the road.
Okay, gotcha.
It was right down the middle. Problem was, after they did that, there were places where the road had wiggled. And where they put it was in the middle, but that was a bad place. It would have been better for them to shift it.
Right.
But we didn't know that because it wasn't, it wasn't marked. We couldn't walk it
Right.
You know what I'm
So
saying?
that's what having the full topo survey is going to help, because, so that's on my plate. When I get the survey back and I see where the ditches are and how we're going to improve the drainage and where we might have to wiggle around,
Okay,
I can handle that on the front end. However,
Gotcha.
we can go out and stake. I just did this on another project. I'm doing a trail project in Wiley. And it's a heavily treed area, and I didn't feel comfortable telling my client they had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to tag every single tree. And I said, just get me the basic, and then let's go walk it and adjust in the field, so that they didn't have to get the tree. We literally set the stakes out there. I sent the surveyor back out, they shot them, and then I had it in my CAD files for the design. So what we can do is, after I finish my design, or at the preliminary stage, maybe, when I just have edge of pavement, we can stake the road every 50 feet or 150 feet, whatever it is. We can walk the road, so
Okay.
it's not a full construction staking, but if you
Right.
want to know a general idea of the center line of the road or the edge of pavement, we can certainly do that. Walk it, feel comfortable about it, and then move forward.
okay. Okay, so, and then, just to read it, so at this survey here, citizens aren't gonna see any stakes out there. There's not gonna be any survey staking. It's just the GPS units.
Right,
It's the-
right. It'll be one crew, 4 or 5 guys out there with a total station and a pole.
Right. Any questions? So,
Is that price fixed?
It's fixed. You will not see a bill for anything higher than that.
so one of the things, what's that?
But no, I was just asking, do surveyors charge generally on a linear square, or,
Like a linear
square?
footage.
I was only asking because of the 4,000 increase for Green Meadows, it doesn't, the math doesn't quite add up. I was
So,
curious about that.
yeah, so what they do is we send our guys a big, I literally will take a big Sharpie and I mark on the edge. So they typically do acres, and then it's based on what the project is, what type of survey they have to do. I can get back to you if you want on that actual.
I'm curious, you guys
forecast.
are pretty close in line to what the average, I mean, I was looking at some of the costs of this stuff just briefly, but it just, I don't know, that seems a little out of line.
Okay.
Not much, but a little.
Well, the other thing I think also is there's more coordination. We always have that engineering.
It is, it is.
It's another street, so
We
Eric,
actually took our coordination out of this a bit because,
okay,
well, I shouldn't say that, we took it out completely. Whereas the other member did have coordination between me and the surveyor. And the reason we did that is because I'm gonna send them out one time for this. I'm not sending them back out just for Green Meadow. In that case, it would be some coordination back and forth for me.
and Green Meadow, Green Meadow, we have some horrible issues with Green Meadow. We have some culverts that are, we have some horrendous. And the other problem with Green Meadow we're gonna have is the other side of Green Meadow was never platted. From the lottery, so it was never platted. So it's not on any plats. The road was never dedicated right. It's kind of
Yeah.
it's a unicorn, as Mark said. But what we need to do, just so everybody knows, this is on here to move forward with the survey work. So if we don't, we're screwing the calendar up by another month.
Oh, I see.
So this is the next step. We got to do the survey work. We got to get back on schedule. We slipped a little bit because of the election and we couldn't, we had to wait till everybody came on board to approve it. So we need to approve this to move forward tonight so we can try to get back on schedule. So that's why this is here, so we can move forward. So, but, this is what we do. Now, the thing is about this, later on, this will be paid next fiscal year, so it's in the budget for next year. This year's budget has the geotech and the traffic entrance thoroughfare plan study. Those are 2 engineering tasks that are going to be this year. This will be paid out next year. Clint, you have any questions?
I think, if I remember right, this is a not to exceed number, right?
Exactly.
So it could come under. If they go over, we're not gonna pay more, but if
all for coming over.
Noted.
Okay.
I like that.
All right, are we good? Good moving forward? All right, next step then. I need a motion to, what do we want to do? Authorize me to execute the, so what we need is a motion to authorize me to execute the task order number 2.
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to make, execute the next task order for Kimberly.
Okay, I have a motion to
I'll
execute.
second.
Eric has a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's great. We're going to keep moving forward. Brittany,
Thank you all, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll get that signed, and we'll fax that into Todd tomorrow,
That's perfect.
so.
All right, thank you guys, have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Brittany.
Brittany.
Thanks for the maps.
Absolutely, anytime. I'm happy to bring maps out here.
We love maps.
You don't want these nice pieces of paper back?
No.
No, these are yours.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have ordinance relating to financial controls. We talked about this, financial controls for the MDD. The only issues here basically deal with, I think I made 1 or 2 changes in here. So it's projects not to exceed 5,000. I basically put in here that anything dealing with Rocky Point, the water system, it has to be less than 10,000 because water system stuff, it is what it is. And obviously there's the standard opt-out, which if there's an emergency, you gotta do what you gotta do on the water system. So what we're basically doing with these controls is that when we approve the MDD budget, which they're going to list, these are the projects they want to work on, then they just do it. And there's no reason to wait a month to come in to do this. Also, what it allows is it allows the MDD president, and Linda's the acting president now, to not have to keep calling meetings. So once their board approves the picnic, then they do the picnic. She doesn't have to keep reconvening the 5 people, over and over again. And that's kind of implicit with the MDD board, is we wanted to make the meetings less meetings, and delegate more so they can be more efficient. And then, it's the standard bank accounts, and then I think I added this last one here that, just to make it clear, the MDD is not allowed to go in debt. Not that they weren't, but they can't go in debt unless the city allows them to go in debt. Again, that's mainly for the auditor. So we have these controls in place that the auditor makes us. Okay? Any questions? All right, this is the MDD controls ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to vote on the MDD controls.
I have a motion to approve the MDD controls ordinance.
I'll second.
Matt has the second. All those in favor? All right, very good. By the way, did you vote to?
Is that allowed?
I don't know about that.
She's very frugal, so.
Okay. You were quick to not abstain, so you did well. Okay, next up we have the 2020 budget. So this is our first round, so this is a discussion only item on the budget. It's a lot here. One of the first things is this format, the format changed from the last time. Basically what this format is doing here is this is mimicking the audit. This is the way the auditor presents our budget. So I've just decided to mimic the audit report. That's kind of what this is. So what you can see, so in the 2019 is obviously, this is the year to date as of the beginning of the month. Everything is running smoothly. We're about $100,000 ahead in cash right now on the general fund, so we're doing very well. We've got a couple of big bills still to come on the general fund side. We've got to pay the geotech. So we've got about a $35,000 expense, but we should end up right around $250,000 in the general fund for the end of the year. So that's looking pretty good. A couple items in here, so obviously these numbers get rolled up from the individual sheets. I'm not really going to go through each one of them unless you guys have questions. Again, this is just a discussion only item here. So here's the thing that is different. So you can see that in the past, again, this is the current year, this is the preceding year. So you can see in the preceding year, what happened is our bond payment was about $175,000, and we get about $49,000 from the 5 cents, which means we had to transfer $126,000 out of our regular tax fund. So we've been subsidizing the debt with our regular tax fund. So in other words, if we didn't do this, so this is a big chunk of our tax money we're using to pay the roads. And this year here, we had to spend, in the current year, we had to spend about $125,000 we spent, again, where we had to move it over to make the debt payment. The reason why there's about $8,000 here is we have to make our second payment in July. So when we make it, it's about $8,500, so this will go to zero. So one of the things I'm proposing is in the next year's budget is that we have to prepare for the roads, is that we're going to phase in the increase in the tax rate. That we have to, so next year we're not going to transfer anything. We're going to keep the actual 25 cents that the city generates in the city. Now, what that means though is, so you can see this year we transferred out $125,000 to make the payment. So if we don't do that next year, we would have $125,000 more in the bank to help our reserves. But we just did $74,000 of it is going to go away to pay for the engineering. And that's kind of what we did 5 years ago, is we paid all the engineering up front out of our cash. So when we borrowed the money, we only borrowed for the road. We tried to minimize the nut. So we're not going to pay all the engineering out because we don't have that much cash, but we can pay this. We can pay for the survey work. So a big chunk of that surplus is going to go to pay the survey work, to lower what we have to borrow. The other additional money that we will have, so you can see, right now we're projecting is in next year's budget, the city would take in about $146,000 more than it spends. Okay? Half of that is going to be the survey, the roads. The other $70,000 will add to our reserves, which means that when we do the concrete road payments in a year, we'll have about $325,000, $350,000 in the bank when we start making our double payments. And we need to get our reserves up when we hit the double payment region. So I have the numbers from DCAD. Our